All right. Hi, everybody. We are live. I'm going to make sure my microphone is working, that you can hear me okay. And we are on day 6 of the 20 questions to reinvent your life. So let's make sure that you guys are good. Sound is good. Mic is good. That we're in all the places that we're supposed to be. All right. We are good to go. So, hello, and let's dive into day 6. So, a couple of quick things. If you don't have the workbook, you can grab it here. There's a QR code, and then I'll also put the link to the chat, free workbook, and you can grab it there. This will give you all 20 questions. You can also go back and review. You'll see here, wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, all the videos are posted where we've been diving in every single day into one of the questions. And the reason we're really doing this at the beginning of the year is that this is the time of year to do this. This is the time of the year to reevaluate. I was just reading some really interesting stats about resolutions. And this is not a resolution. Okay. So it does not need to be New Year's to do this. This is any time that you're really ready to reinvent or reclaim your life or say, okay, I want something different, right? I want to make a positive change. I want to move closer into the direction that I really, my dreams, my goals, the things that I want. But obviously, in New Year's, a lot of people start doing that for their resolutions. They start looking at the resolutions. And so I was reading, I don't know if I saved it, it was very interesting about people and their resolutions. And it was that number one, it's only like 3 out of 10 people set a resolution. But what was really interesting to me is that it was mostly younger people who set resolutions. As we get older, we don't set resolutions. And the answer that the majority of people gave when they said, "Why don't you set a resolution?" is they said, "I don't want to," which I thought, well, how great is that? Because so many people have a difficult time just being able to say, "I don't want to," right? They feel like they need to defend or justify, particularly women. We feel like we need to have a reason why we said, "I don't want to." So I thought that was pretty cool. Um, but then I started to think, and they didn't have any research on this, but why is it that people don't want to? And I'd be curious if if people dug a little bit deeper, if the researchers dug a little deeper, if they would find that the reason that people don't want to is because they've set resolutions in the past and then didn't follow through. Because most people, the majority, forget within the first week. And then certainly by week 4, week 6, it's kind of everybody's back to their old habits and routines. And so that's why there's kind of this push against setting resolutions because it doesn't really mean much. It's kind of really more like a wish, right? Like, I wish I would do this or I wish I would do that, where it's not really about making a lasting transformation, lasting change. And there's a couple of things that research does find that makes a difference when people have goals, set goals, and I'm going to say this would kind of fall into a resolution, maybe a goal, something that you want to change. Accountability, having people around you, having a circle, a tribe of people around you that are going to hold you accountable, saying out loud, letting these people know or letting someone know what it is that you're working on, right? Somebody is going to follow up and say, did you do it? And even just writing it down. And that's a big part of where, like, using this workbook becomes really important, because there is something powerful about writing down our thoughts, about journaling, about taking that time to step back and say, let me reflect, let me regroup, let me figure out where is it that I am and where do I want to go, and what are the stumbling blocks that are really keeping me from moving in that direction. So today's question is question number 6. Okay. So yesterday, the question was, what values are most important to me? And how well do my current choices align with these values? And so we talked about, really, how do you understand what your core values are? I have a workbook on how to determine what your core values are. I posted that with that video. You can grab that. If you're in the Hey Girl You Can community, that workbook is in your membership. Just log into your portal. You'll see it there. And then we talked about, are the choices that we're making aligned with the things that we're saying that we value? So today, the question is an extension on that. It says, are there aspects of my life that I need to adjust to better reflect my priority? And so when we're looking at, how am I living life? How am I showing up? If I said these were my priorities, if I said these were my values, these are the things that are important to me, how well am I investing my time towards that? One of my mentors is famous for saying that time invested in one area is time invested away from another area. And we often don't think of it like that. Time is, we only have 169 hours a week, right? And so when I say yes to this, I'm in essence saying no to that. So if I'm saying my priority is health, okay, if I'm saying my priority is health, but I'm saying yes to all my kids' activities, my work obligations, my volunteer obligations, my social obligations, and not finding time to go to the gym, to meal prep, to take that walk after dinner, then I'm in essence, by saying yes to these things, I'm saying no to my health. Without directly saying no, I am saying no. If I'm saying a priority of mine is really family time, is spending time with the family, but I have my schedule set up where during the week, everybody is moving in different directions. We don't even have time to eat together. And then the weekend is so filled with kids' activities or with errands or with catching up stuff around the house that we're not regularly investing time as a family together. Saying yes to all of these things is saying no to the thing that I'm saying I value, which is the family time. And here's where we go back to not judging, but being aware. It's not that saying yes to these things is wrong. It's being aware of saying, do these yeses align with what I want in my life and my priorities? And guys, that's going to be different for everybody. And it also will be different in different seasons of your life. There were different priorities when my daughter was very young than there are now with her in college. So you might have different priorities. If you're young and you're starting out and you're trying to build your career and get established, you may earn the right to have different priorities down the road where you have a little bit more clout in your career and you can say yes and no to different opportunities, right? If you're starting a business, you may be kind of putting in more hours to get that business off the ground so that you can earn the right to have more freedom and more choices down the road. When I started my first business, I was willing to be inconvenienced in a way that I'm not willing to be now because I was kind of paying my dues. And I think that we've developed a kind of a cultural or societal view that you don't have to pay your dues anymore. Where us, these X generation and certainly, the generation older than me, we were used to the idea that you had to pay your dues, right? You had to be willing to do the things that, maybe weren't super easy or super simple or were a little inconvenienced. But I remember often thinking when I was in my 20s, I was building my business, I am willing to do what other people are not willing to do so that I can have what other people don't have. And that built me a career in a company, in a business that has lasted 27 years, right? And so I was willing to do those things. I remember one of my friends who very, very successful in his 20s and went on to sell his company for millions of dollars and has an incredible lifestyle. And uh, we've often talked about business, and I really admire his business sense. And he talked about how in his 20s, he would sleep literally like under his desk in his office as he was building this startup. But because of the sacrifices that he was willing to make in his 20s, he has a lifestyle that most of us are very envious of, right? That most people aspire to have. And so when we're looking at what do I need to align? What do I need to shift in my life to better align with my priorities? Priorities are not good or bad. They're your priorities. And sometimes we say, oh, this is a good priority, or I shouldn't make this a priority. I want you to leave that. Okay. This is not about what anybody else thinks, what your mom thinks, your family thinks, your coworkers think, your sister thinks. This is simply your priorities, the things that are important to you right now in this season of your life. They very well will change, right? Are your choices, are your actions. If I look at your life, if I took a screenshot of your life last week, is the time that you're investing every day with your 169 hours, is it invested in a way that lines up and reflects those priorities? If it doesn't, you can change that. Here's the great part. You're in charge of that 169 hours. You can change them. Now some people say, well, I don't have any choices. I have these demands from my boss and I have, things I have to do for my kids. And I think what's really important that we remember is that you always have a choice. Now, you may not like the choices, but you always have a choice, right? You have a choice to stay in that job or quit that job. And you're like, well, but I need to pay my mortgage. Okay, but you still have a choice of whether or not you pay the mortgage or not. Still a choice, right? So the choice is, yeah, I don't want to, lose my house. So I'm going to work that job. Now, it may be a choice that I start looking for a different job, or I may start cutting other things out of my life, or I may, choose that my kids are involved in one activity and not three. And you might say, well, but I don't like that. I want my kids to be involved with everything. Okay, but that is your choice. And I think this is really where, as women, we own our power when we see how many choices we actually have, because basically everything is really a choice. It's just sometimes we don't like what those choices are, right? So I would encourage you today to kind of sit down for a little bit, maybe put together a screenshot of what your life was last week. And if you're like, I'm not really sure, then maybe a fun activity or not so fun activity this week is to set an alarm on your phone. And we do this in the time audit. You can grab that off my website, the time audit, where you actually audit your time and you go through every half hour and you audit what you're doing during that time. It is a very difficult activity, but I will tell you it is so insightful because it forces you to see what you're really doing. And I will tell you, my experience has been that what we think we're doing and what we're actually doing are very different things. Even those of us who I think we're super great time managers, time blockers, I'm always shocked at what you learn from a time audit. Okay. And is that time invested aligned with your priorities? Now, if it's not, then we need to start to look at what are the things that are so far from my priorities that I'm saying yes to. Those are the things that are going to be the easiest to eliminate first, to make space, to create more time for the things that are important to you, for the priorities. So if you say, well, it's a priority to me get to give back, but I literally have no time to volunteer. Then you look at your calendar, you say, okay, what are the things that are so out of whack with my priorities? What are the things that I have said yes to out of obligation that really, at the end of the day, don't align with the things that are important to me? Those things you cut first. Okay. If you are struggling with where you find yourself saying yes to a lot of things that you are like, I should not have said yes to, and now I regret saying yes to, I do have a video. You can check it out. It's on my YouTube on my 24-hour rule and how that has changed my life. And if you go to the Hey Girl You Can blob, it's just blog, heygirlyoucan.com, there is also an article on the 24-hour rule and how implementing this has completely changed my life, but also has stopped me from getting into those situations where I've said yes to things that I really regretted. Because what happens is there's lots of great opportunities, right? There's a lot of things. It's not to say that when you look at your calendar that these aren't good things, right? A lot of times we're saying yes to really good things. It's just that by saying yes to all of these things, we're saying no to the things that maybe would be even better, that would trump those, that would be more aligned with our vision and our goals and our dreams. And so we're looking to create more of this space in our life. Okay. If you have questions, so number one, I would love in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Do you feel that if you look at your calendar now, if you look at your schedule now, do you feel like your time is really aligned with your priorities? And if not, where do you see the biggest out of whack? Like the biggest, disconnect. Now, if you're in the Hey Girl You Can community, you want to head over to our Facebook group and put that in our Facebook group because again, we support each other, we coach each other. I can help coach you through some of those things. If you are looking for a community like that, go check it out, heygirlyoucan.com, and find out getting involved with us. It's super cheap and you get a lot for it. You get events, you get Q&A sessions, networking, a private Facebook group, but we want you to head over there to drop your answers. And then if you're looking for a bigger dive into priorities, time, how you're investing your time, if your life is a reflection of the things that you say that you want and what you want to create, that's where the Total Transformation Day is going to really support you. We have one coming up in a couple of weeks, and this is a 1-day intensive. We really get down to the nitty and gritty. We dive deep into where you are, where you want to go. We look at who you are, how you're made, how you're wired, your personality, the way you view the world, your priorities, your core values, all of that, and kind of take all that information and then say, okay, how can I create a life that reflects that in a very transformative way? So think of it as kind of going in as that caterpillar into the cocoon for, the day. We work together in a small group setting during that day. It's all virtual. So it doesn't matter where you live in the world. And then you're going to come out transformed. So set your alarm. I will be back here tomorrow. I'll be going live tomorrow at I think 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you want to join in there, come back then. And for today, grab your workbook. Here you go. Grab your workbook, spend some time journaling, look at your calendar, and reflect on that question. And then we will tackle question 7 tomorrow.